Hey everybody, I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network, and we are doing yet another awesome interview. This time with cosplayer Jacey Julep. I'm pronouncing that correct, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. We're live from Infinity Flux, our sponsor, and it's actually funny because we've got the restroom sign back here, and they like she was actually gonna take that down early. I was like, no, it adds what character? Was that what we'd call it? Character. Yeah. Yeah, it added a little bit of character to the broadcast. So I was like, no, we're at Infinity Flux when the actual bathroom sign's behind me. So let's keep it there. Um, yeah, we actually kind of sort of go back a long way. I've talked to you several times. It was like way back when. I think maybe even close to 2 years ago,
Yeah.
because I can't remember if you reached out to me this time or I reached out to you just a couple of months ago, and I was like, "Hey, you actually were part of our cosplay competition back when we ran it."
It was a
Uh,
while ago. I think I was actually going under a different name back then too.
I
I
I
think.
think you were still Jacey Julep because
Was I? Okay.
yeah, I remember the name. That's really what what caught my attention because I was like, "Hey, we've worked with her before,"
Yes.
and like it was one of those deals where like we didn't really have the stuff set up. I wish we had a different way to get a lot of those like cosplay competitions going because I feel like just getting people to like votes isn't really the ideal way of doing it, and that's
Right.
why now instead of doing like monthly or weekly competitions, we've actually got it set up. Now we just feature people, and it's
Right.
like first come first serve. If you're like number 30 in line, we'll feature you a month from now.
Right.
uh, because I want to give everybody a chance, not just the people who can pull in 200-300 votes. And I mean, you have a fairly solid fan base, correct?
Yeah, I do. I have. Well, it's like it's interesting because I have a fan base, but it's. I think I'm sitting at about like 1,600 like likes on my Facebook page. But out of those 1,600, I probably talked to 250 of them on the regular and know them personally.
Oh
Like just
wow.
over the course of the years, like talking to them through my page. Like I've run into a couple of them at cons, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I followed you since like back before you were Jacey Julep when you were going by your other name, and like I transferred over when you transferred pages." And so like I've met a bunch of people that way, which have been really interesting and exciting. And I'm happy with like my little like clique of people because I can it's easier to keep up with people, and I have a very like strong rooted like um almost like a friendship. It is a friendship. I talk to them
Yeah.
pretty regularly, so which I really enjoy that. But I do have like those solid like 250 to 300 people that like all of my stuff and like will comment if I actually like ask questions, which I really like because it's nice to have other nerd friends that I know are there on the other side of the computer, which I really like.
Now I want to bring up you are. Do you just dress up or do you follow a lot of the fandoms?
Oh, I follow a lot of the fandoms. Usually, if I'm wearing well, always, if I'm wearing a costume from something, I am in the fandom. Like that's just like where I'm at. I'm doing this year at the end of this year. I'm gonna be at Dragon Con is like my last con of the year because I get married right after Dragon Con this year. So at Dragon Con, I'm going to do Junkrat from Overwatch, and I'm a huge Overwatch fan, and Junkrat is my main. And then I'm doing Danny Sexbang from Ninja Sex Party, which is a band I'm a really big fan of. He's part of the Game Grumps, which is like online gaming community on YouTube. And then I just realized that I'll be finishing Kakashi in time to take him to Dragon Con. He's part of Naruto. So I'm happy that I have like a comic book, a movie, an anime, and then just like a random like YouTube like gaming. Because I'm part of the gaming fandom a lot. That's something I've really gotten into this past year or so.
No,
So.
you're from the U.S., correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm from Charlotte, North. Well, I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I lived for a while in New York, and now I'm in Asheville, which is like the hippie capital of North Carolina.
Wow, I actually didn't know that. Like I spent a little bit of time up in Charlotte. Like I think it was like the summer of '99. I spent up
Yeah.
there, like right across from the Speedway, which
Yeah, yeah.
technically is in Concord. Um, but yeah, really nice country up there. Just, I mean, it's like it's like a big city, but it's laid back at the same time. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like it is really different. And I grew up. I was born and raised in like Charlotte, actually a little town right outside of Charlotte called Matthews. And I went to high school there. But growing up, I never really fit in because I don't really have a country mentality, and I don't even have like the twang or anything to my voice. So I don't really. I'm not really a Southern. Like I'm born Southerner, but I'm not really a Southerner. So when I moved to New York, it was an amazing fit, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like where I belong, and I loved it. I was in New York, I think, on and off for 3 years. I moved and then moved home and then moved back, and like I was back and forth a lot. I really loved it. I just couldn't afford it. But Asheville's really awesome. It's like it's in the mountains, so I live in the mountains of North Carolina. And the little town that Asheville is, it's all like artsy and very eclectic. So there's a lot of like different stuff happening in Asheville all the time, and it's really really nice. I've been really happy.
Asheville is one of those places. Isn't? Am I am I wrong in thinking Asheville is where the Petties
Mm,
NASCAR the Petties? No, I can't recall. But my 15-year-old self would be slapping me in the face right now because like I used to know everything about NASCAR. But so yeah, you have all those interests, and what brings you to cosplay? I mean, were you a fan of it before? Because a lot of times
um,
what we hear is people are like, "Oh, this friend took me, and I was hooked."
yeah, it's kind of like that. I guess the first costume I ever really did was actually a pirate costume. At the time, I was dating a guy who was a Jack Sparrow impersonator, and he did like pirate stuff all the time. And he's like, "Well, why don't you make a pirate costume too?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I made a pirate costume, and I like the longer I had it, the more detailed it became. And I started wearing it all the time, and I wore it to a million Renaissance fairs, and I'd wear it to photo shoots, and I'd wear it here and I'd wear it there. So I just started wearing my pirate costume a lot, but it wasn't really a recognizable character. So people are like, "Oh, what are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not from anything. I'm just a pirate." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then I had one of my friends is a Batman cosplayer, and he was like, "Hey," he was like, "This is gonna sound really weird, but I have this Catwoman costume I bought for an ex-girlfriend. She refused to wear it. He's like, I just wanted to go to conventions, but I think it might fit you. Are you interested in trying it on and seeing if you want to go to Heroes Con is like the con that's like in my hometown."
Yeah.
So I was like, I mean, okay. And I tried it on, it fit okay, and like I made a couple adjustments to it and I wore it. And Catwoman was really like my first like character that I did. And it was like a bag costume. It was from a Halloween store, and I went and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, oh man, it was really fun. I really like that. It's like Halloween, but it doesn't have to be Halloween because Halloween is my favorite holiday. So I was like, okay, I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm getting a costume, I'm getting to dress up, but it doesn't have to be Halloween for me to do that. So I started doing that a lot, and then from there, I just started doing like more conventions. I ended up, one of my good friends, Matt, ended up taking me to a bunch of different conventions over the course of like this time, and my costumes just grew from there. They grew really, really small, and then slowly started like picking up and gaining like different levels of like difficulty. So
Now your first costume, cat or the one of fandom, so to speak,
yeah.
Catwoman. How popular was that? With the first one you put on?
Um, it at the time like I didn't have like a fan page or anything like that because I wasn't that serious about it. It was just kind of something I did. But like a lot of people recognized me from doing it because at the time I had short, shaggy black hair and I looked a lot like Selena Kyle, who's from the comic book. So when I take my cowl off to talk to people, they were kind of like taken back a little bit, and they're like, "Oh, you kind of look like her from the comic books too." And I was like, "Oh, do I?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then like so people started recognizing me as my friend always joked, he's like, "You're the Latino Catwoman." That's what he used to tell me all the time, Latina Catwoman. And I was like, yeah, because I was like really dark at that point, like because I'd been out in the sun all summer. And so he used to always joke with me, and people would recognize me as that. And then I became friends with a bunch of other DC cosplayers from Heroes Con, and I started doing a lot of stuff with them. And then they were like, "Well, how do we share you? How do we tag you?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess I'll make a page." And at the time I made the page, I went under Wicked or the Wicked, and my name for a long time on Facebook was Julia the Wicked. And I went underneath that for a long time. And then I did some work with some cosplay sites, and about 2 years ago when we started talking, I decided that I needed to like revamp myself and like let go of all that because it was just like me having fun and like not being serious about it. So I was like, I'm gonna let that go. and I'm gonna start something new. So I started Jacey Julep, and that's when I started getting like that's when I really started getting like popularity because people could start tagging me in things that they recognize. So my Catwoman, my first costume ever wasn't really popular. My first like four costumes weren't popular at all because nobody knew who I was because I wasn't like really out there trying to like be a cosplayer. I was just dressing up and having fun. And I think that's a distinct like that was a difference for me from when I went to like, oh, I'm dressing up to have fun to like I'm dressing up to like show my face so people know who I am. And that was a big transition for me about 2 years ago is when I got like more serious. And like my first like serious costume was Jack from Mass Effect because I poured like my soul into that costume.
I'm gonna show you. Won't be able to see it because I'm actually showing it on our YouTube live stream. I'm gonna pull up your Twilight costume.
Yeah, my Twi'lek.
I'm gonna go ahead and show that to everybody. This is if you want to know, like anybody wants to know what you look like in costume. This is what I'm pulling up.
It's
That's
a
the complete
difference.
one. I've kind of got it off right in the middle of us here, and it really cool. Now I've noticed, uh, you were one of the few women I've seen who have pulled off the bald look.
Yeah.
And I want to know, was that by design or like how
Um,
did that come about?
it was kind of yes and no. I was at a time in my life where things were like really weird and stressful. I think I was like 19 the first time I shaved my head all the way. In high school, I always had like the sides done. I had like a blue mohawk for a long time.
Oh, kind of like
And
the Miley look.
yeah, yeah. So like I was like, okay. And I was at a point in my life where I was really stressed out and like I swore my hair was thinning. I could see it and I was like, it's just really weird, and like I'm losing patches of it and like I was stressed about it. And so I had shaved it back into my mohawk and I kind of left it alone because I was like, all right, well my mohawk seems fine. And then I was sitting around with one of my friends at night and we were talking about cosplays to do for Dragon Con because I hadn't done anything all year. And he was like, why don't you just shave your mohawk off and do Riddick? I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, just do like a female Riddick. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And then I shaved
Cool.
my mohawk off, and then I shaved my head. So like I did it to do a Riddick. It started with my hair, with me thinking my hair was thinning because I was stressed out so much, and then it just like became a thing because of cosplay. And then I started doing every like shaved head character I could find. And I got so used to my head being shaved that when my hair grows in, I feel like I don't look like myself anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, oh, this is weird. Like, oh, I don't like this. So I've just kept it.
Now I know I was following. This may have been a year ago, maybe a little bit less, but there were actually times where you would ask everybody, "Hey, do you think I should let my hair grow back?" And 9 times out of 10, like there's a handful of people who are just curious to see what you look like with hair, and then but like overall, there's like a resounding no, 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 no,
No,
no,
no,
you
no,
know.
always, always, it never fails. I'm like, should I grow my hair out? And everyone's like, no. And I'm like, whoa, whoa. And they're just like, this is who you are. And it's like, it is. And that's one thing, like, I don't regret it because I loved having a shaved head, and it is a piece of who I am. I've had a shaved head for close to 6 years. So I'm like, okay, this is just kind of who I am now. But because I have a shaved head and people know me so much for having a shaved head that anytime I have hair or talk about growing my hair out, everyone's like, don't do that. That's not who you
I can't.
are.
I'm not gonna lie. That's how I remember you. Like I'll look and I'll be like, JC. Like, I mean, this was like after we hadn't really spoken or anything for like
Yeah.
almost a year, and I was like, man, JC Julep, like that sounds so familiar. And then I pulled up your page. Oh yeah, the one with the shaved head.
The blonde one. Yeah, I get that a lot. And like, if I have like, I'll have a wig on at a convention, or I'll have like a hairpiece on somewhere, and someone will be like, I'll be talking to somebody who I know, who I've talked to multiple times, and they just kind of look at me, and and I realize they don't know who I am,
Yeah.
and I'm like, it's JC. I have a shaved head, and they're like, oh yeah, 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 and then they know who I am, and everything's fine. So like, it's interesting that like, I never realized hair makes so much of a difference, but it does, and like a whole nother topic, but being a woman with a shaved head in society is a crazy experience, and I highly suggest it to anybody that's ever wanted to try it or is curious about it. I love it. It's I call it my built. I don't know, like I call it my built-in filter. Like I get through people a lot faster because like I can gauge them with how they gauge me, and so that's how like it's like a built-in filter for my life, and I really like that. It helps me a lot with that too.
Have you had negative experiences with it? Do you
Oh
care to talk
yes.
about it?
Oh yes. So I've had a couple. I've had other girls be really rude about it, and I don't know if it's just because like they're threatened or they just don't, and people don't understand different, and that's fine. But I've had them call me not so nice names with having a short head, and like people be like, I don't like short hair on women, and I'm like, okay.
I mean, it's really for you. It's not for everybody
Yeah, and
else.
so I get a lot of stuff like that. I get people that try to touch my head in public that I don't know, and that gets me a lot. I had a little old lady in Target try to touch my head, and I smacked her hand away, and she was like, "You're so rude," and I was like, "You're trying to touch me? I don't know you. I don't know where your hand's been." And I get a lot. I get sirred a lot, which like it happens, and it doesn't bother me at all. But excuse me, sir. And I'm like, what? And they're like, and then you can just see like the wheels, like they're trying to like go back to where they can fix it. I'm like, it doesn't bother me. I have little kids ask me a lot too, because they'll
Yeah,
look at
like
me and,
that's just how I guess how people are programmed.
oh yeah, it
And
is.
they see somebody with a shaved head, and the first place their brain goes is guy.
Yeah, or I get this a lot. I'll be like, you're gonna do okay. You're gonna be okay. I get that a lot too, and I'm like, I'm not sick.
Oh,
I tell them like, I'm not sick. I just have a shaved head. This is how I prefer to be. And they're like, oh, and then they're like, I'm sorry, and I was like, no, I'm not offended. I'm just letting you know that this is my choice, and there are some women that don't have the choice, and that's one thing. I'm really active in this group called the Baldy Movement.
yeah.
They're pretty cool. It's a group of women that don't have hair. Some of them are don't have hair by choice, and some of them have not had the choice, and their hair is whether they suffer if they're going through chemo or they suffer with alopecia. They're an amazing support system. If anyone ever like loses hair or wants to try to not have hair, that support system is amazing. They do a lot of really great things for women who are struggling with hair loss. And
I
so like
love that.
yeah, I'm a huge advocator. Like they're super amazing. The founder is an amazing person as well. Her name is Nellie Coleman. I got into them probably a year after I shaved my head. Like I just started creeping on them on Instagram, and they have grown so much over the course of like the last probably 4 years, I guess. And that's really amazing.
I need to after we get done with the interview, I need you to please send me a link to that group
Yes.
because that would be something cool to share, like in the video description.
Oh yeah, and that's one thing too. If anyone ever goes out and checks out my YouTube channel, it's just like I'm Jacey Julep on all platforms, so I'm pretty easy to find. I have a bunch of my videos are doing nothing but talking about being a bald woman in society and being like bald as like a person. But I plug them a lot in my videos, and they're also on my channel a lot as well.
That you're that previous, talking about that group and everything, that answered a couple of my questions, and the main one being, had you ever had someone like, how like a lot of people like at work or family members or something, if they have someone who's going through chemo and everybody will shave their head. Have you ever had like somebody going through that look up to you like dressed up or anything and say
Um,
anything?
I've had, well, I haven't really had something like that. I got an email a year and a half ago of this woman from India, and her English was pretty broken. But she was like, I've always really wanted to shave my head, and I never have. And I found your Instagram, and I just thought it was the best thing. And she sent me a picture. She had like hair down to her butt. And she just like shaved it all off,
Oh
and she
wow.
had this big like plume of hair. And she donated all her hair to like a wig foundation for sick kids. But I've gotten a couple emails like that. I've gotten a couple people that have tagged me, be like, oh, inspiration, and that always makes me feel super awesome because I am all about like girls doing what they want to do, and it's also incredibly liberating. As far as cosplay, like I get a lot of attention for being bald, but there are a couple other bald female cosplayers too, and like we've kind of created like this group of like, what costume are you doing? What costume are you doing? Well, I can't do that one if you do that one. So like it becomes like that game of like trying to like sort things out. But I love it. I every once in a while I get someone who's just like, it's so amazing, and I'm just like, thanks, thanks. So
Now, I
I
want to give a shout out. One of our regulars, Neil Beowulf, is in the chat, and he says you get sirred a lot. That's okay. Lonnie gets mammed a lot. I don't, I don't, I don't think I've ever had anybody call me ma'am. I have my hair's a little too short for that, I think. Yeah, he did a great job. Like if you go back and rewatch this interview, he's the guy who actually did our like graphics. Like he
Oh,
designed
cool.
our logo. He designed our live logo, and he made some minor alterations to the Infinity Flux logo, who is our sponsor, and like gave it like a clear background and kind of pop the colors out a little bit to where it looks good on our background.
That's cool.
Um, let's see. But yeah, happy Star Wars Day, by the way.
Yeah.
I have to say that because believe it or not, this is our official 2 year anniversary.
Woohoo!
Uh, Untitled Nerd Network is 2 years old today, and we were founded on Star Wars Day 2015. So here we are.
Yeah, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy because I wanted to get some people who had interacted with us before, and we did our first ever Untitled Nerd Girl of the Week, Foxy Freak cosplay yesterday. It took me, you don't know how hard it was to track her down because for some reason, because she hadn't been active, her I guess her page wasn't showing up when I searched for it.
Yeah.
And so it took me like finding a mutual friend to get her in touch with me. Um, but yeah, you what kind of things other than you don't do necessarily just bald characters? You do a lot of
Oh.
stuff. I mean, you have a repertoire of like several dozen characters that I've seen. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit about the ones who didn't necessarily utilize the bald look.
Um, well, actually, on my Instagram right now, I'm doing the 20 days of cosplay, and day 2 was how many cosplays have you done? And I tallied them off, and I've done 20. I've done Sailor Uranus, where I wore a wig for that. I did Spider Girl. At the time, I had hair, but I wore a mask, so it didn't matter. I'm doing Kakashi from Naruto at the end of this year, and I have a big gray wig that I wear for that. Anytime I do Harley Quinn, I wear a wig. And I've done a couple different versions of Harley. I did a punk version where I have a ginormous, like, blonde, curly, like, puffy fro type thing. And then I've done a Wednesday Adam where I have like 2 blonde braids. So I've done that. I did Princess Bubblegum a really long time ago, and I had a pink wig for that. All of my Star Wars characters have been bald, except for Suli, who's a Twi'lek, but she has like. When I originally got my Twi'lek, my Leku, which is like what the head tentacles are called, I had hair. It's just that the fact I put it on over it and like it balds me because it's a full headpiece. So
Yeah.
things like that. I'm trying to think. Has there ever been anything where I've had like my Harley Quinn wig was like the biggest hairpiece I think I've ever worn. It's ridiculous. It's huge. And then for Negasonic Teenage Warhead from Deadpool, I did her last year at Dragon Con. I grew my hair out for that, and I had like a centimeter of black fuzz all over. And then
I
I
was
shaved
like-
it off the bathroom after I took the costume off. I was like,
I'm
okay.
thinking about what she looks like, and then I'm thinking of you, and I was like, you really didn't have to do a lot of work for that. Just let your hair grow
No.
out a couple of weeks and wear
I
what
got-
you
and I
normally
got a
wear.
Yeah, well, it's in like I had there is a cosplayer named Nathan DeLuca. He like did a sub dye suit, like a screen print suit of her suit, and sent me the graphics, and I paid him for it, and I got the full Negasonic suit, and it looked awesome. But as soon as I took that costume off in the bathroom at the hotel I was staying at, I shaved all of my hair off. I was done, 100%. I was like, this is it. This is all I could do. So.
I want to know when you shave it. Like, now I'll tell you, I look horrible with a shaved head. I don't have the shape for it. I've given it a go before, but whenever you do it, do you use like a razor or do you use like an electric?
Well, usually I went out and bought myself a beard trimmer, and I use that to just like shave. Like I do it probably every 2 days.
Okay.
This is actually yesterday. Every 2 months I take like a razor and shaving cream and completely like skin it down, and I did that last night. So that's why my shave is so short today. Is because like I like skin shaved last night, and I just use a regular shaver and like a Vino shaving cream because it's the best for my scalp, and that's what I usually
I'll
take
say
it
somebody
down.
that keeps their head bald all the time, we really need to look at your, the stuff that you do, because if you're telling us it's a good product or you're telling us that this is a good way to keep your head shaved, you're the one to listen to.
Yeah, it's been 6 years in the making, and there have been a lot of mess ups and a lot of like I've had when I first went bald. Like I was talking to this guy who was bald, and he was like, I always use Neosporin to shave my head, and I tried that, and it was god awful. I had such a hard time with it. But
Oh.
Aveeno is like really nice because it's made out of oats and it's like natural and like soft. So that's what I use the most because it keeps me from looking red. And then there is this product. This is gonna sound awful. There's this product that like you can buy at CVS called Bikini Zone. It's basically to keep women from getting like razor burn and like shaving bumps. And I would rub that on my head, and it burns. It burns so bad, but it keeps me from getting like razor burns or any type of like rashes or anything too.
I'll say I need to hook you. I don't even need to like pimp this on the channel, but I need to hook you up with my girlfriend because she's a pure romance consultant, and she sells that
Oh
stuff
yeah.
called Coochie. Like
Yes,
she
that
swears
stuff
by it.
is
Everybody
so
swears by it.
nice. Yes, that stuff is so nice. I really want to try shaving butter too. I haven't had a chance to try the shave butter, but I've heard great things about that too. So I haven't gotten there quite yet, but I will.
I'll hook you guys up. I'll send you her like profile and we can network and stuff. Um, but I can't believe I just brought that up on the air.
No. Good.
But hey, I was actually sitting there thinking about, you having a bald head for you. I think would be like the most convenient thing because I was sitting there thinking like if I was gonna like let's say I was gonna cosplay Professor Xavier,
Mm-hmm.
I would have to either shave and
Or
change
purple.
my look totally, or I would have to like get a bald cap, which technically would probably look horrible. You could cosplay anything, and all you got to do is throw a wig on.
Yeah, but like my problem is I really want to cosplay Zarya from Overwatch, and she has like the sides of her head are kind of shaved, and she has like a pink swoosh.
Oh,
But yeah, and then like I'm like, how am I gonna do a wig for that? Because like it's impossible to find a nice like mohawk like um swoosh wig, I guess. It's like if that makes any sense. So I run into a couple problems with wigs, like because I can't find the exact wig that I need or that I want, because like Zarya's wig, and I could commission it, but it's like a couple $100s, and like when you're cosplaying on a budget, like you can't like throw a couple $100s for a wig,
oh yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. I know. Like cosplay on a budget. We talked to. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Night Mage, Michael Wilson.
Yeah,
He
I
does
feel
a
like I
lot of
know.
yeah. He tours a lot and does a lot of stuff. And he actually we talked to him, and I think all but one of his cosplays. He says if he can't do it for under $250, he won't even touch it.
Yeah, which it is kind of the rule I've adapted to recently. My Jack costume is probably the most expensive thing I own compared to my skin because of my tattoos. But like it was a lot, and like I did it over the course of a year. But still, like looking back on how much it was, I was like, oh my god, like I won't do that again. My Junkrat costume though is also very expensive, and I get very lucky because I have people that offer to help, and when people offer to help, I can get things done faster, and it speeds up my process. So like there are like 5 people that want to see me in Junkrat at DragonCon. So they each like help me out a little bit each month, so I can get the props done and I can get like the wigs done and the leg and everything like that. So been very very fortunate to get help from people, and I highly appreciate it because if it wasn't for them, I would not be able to accomplish what I accomplish in my time frames or anything like that.
Have you considered crowdfunding, like GoFundMe, Patreon, stuff like
Um,
that?
I thought about doing Patreon because a lot of my friends do it and have amazing luck with it. But I feel like I can't offer anything, like you know how like they have like prize levels and stuff like
Yes.
that. I feel like I don't have anything super great to offer, and I feel bad opening one up if I don't have anything great to offer because I want to make sure that if someone is putting in the time and effort into me, I want to put the time and effort back into them. And I just haven't hit anything yet that I feel like is enough. I was like, oh, well, I could do like the Polaroids because I have like a Polaroid camera, but like I don't know, like if I'm helping someone out, like I'd love to get a picture of them, but I'd want something like greater. So that's what I'm trying to like. I'm trying to find something that is worth the help, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's because we actually thought about doing it ourselves for the channel, but I was like, what do we have to offer that we could sell people?
Exactly, and that's like I can't. I don't like. I mean, I could do prints, but I'm just like, but you could just like buy a $5 print from me and like not have to pay monthly. You know, like I've just been trying to like figure out what the best way to do it. I've had friends that have great luck with it though, and I've really been considering it. So maybe I'll give it a try in like the next month or so. But right now, like I try to stay away from GoFundMe because I've heard like it's a double-ended sword. Like while you might get help, like a lot of people kind of frown upon it in the cosplay community.
Yeah.
So I've tried to like take a step back and like I try not to mess with crowdfunding because it's also I found a lot of time the crowdfunding is for people who are like my dad is really sick and he's in hospice and we need money, and so like I try to leave crowdfunding alone like that for people who like are in like super need for stuff like that. But if people do it and it works for them, I'm like go for it. I can't bring myself to do it I did it once because for my birthday when I lived in New York, my dog was still in Charlotte, but I was in New York, and I did a small GoFundMe to get my dog to me in New York for my birthday. That was like my birthday present was my dog coming
Has
up to
that
me.
been in the past 2 years?
Or has it been? No, this was like right before. This was right before I became Jacey Julep.
Okay,
So
because it seems like I remember seeing something about that. It may have
same
been
boat
before
as
we
Lonnie.
ever, yeah, it may have been before we ever met, before we ever connected or anything. But it seems like I remember seeing something about that way back when.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Let's see, we got some chat. Uh, oh yeah, he's Neil Beowulf's on here saying he said you could do videos where you show how to put together the cosplay and set up sponsorship through Streamlabs or Patreon.
Mhm.
Yeah, he does have a point. Most of the people that donate to those kind of things, while it's neat to get something back, they do it because they actually are a fan of yours and want to see you
Yeah,
grow, not necessarily to get a physical product. And I see what he's saying there, but at the same time, you don't want to just take money. You want to give
yeah.
back, and to some extent.
And that's my thing. Like I always have my PayPal link up on my profile, and like if anyone ever wants to help, I find that doing it through PayPal is like the easiest. And like usually I always try to whatever costume they help fund, I always try to send a print of just like a thank you, even if it's nothing big, like even if it's just like a 4x6 framed print sign, I try to send something
Yeah,
back. And that's why like when anytime ever anyone ever helps me through PayPal, I'm just like, oh, just like put your email in or put like your address in so I can send you a thank you when everything is done and I have like a good picture to send you. Um, that's what I try to do because I feel like that's something to give back. And also, I think there's some type of percentage on Patreon where like they keep a certain percent of like what you get. And I'm just like, if it's through PayPal, it's like direct, and only that I have direct contact with whoever's helping me instead of
yeah.
like this person donated whatever on your Patreon and now they get this. I'm like, I want to have. That's why I think my numbers are also kind of small still, and I have that like super small group of people that I talk to is because like I know them by name, and I usually can pick them out at com. Like if I physically see them, I can be like, I know you, you're so and so from my page, and I talk to you every week, and like it's good to see you. How's your family doing? Because that's the type of like conversations we always end up having.
That's really cool because you see people. There's people who have 1 million fans, and then there's people that have 200 or 300, and then like it's neat to see somebody like you who really has that day-to-day interaction with a good number of the people, and that's missing, I think, because I think once people get like over 1,000, or
It gets
they
hard.
start building those numbers up, that they kind of lose touch. They may have one or two that they still talk to and everything, but a lot of the problem, especially with the internet in general, is you get so busy and stuff that you lose touch. And it's cool to see somebody like yourself who still takes the time to talk to their fans. Um, like, just out of curiosity, like you get a lot of messages, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
and I mean, you usually find the time to.
I try to reply to at the end of the night, like, because I work 40 hours a week about it. So, like, I work a
Yeah,
full time job. And so if I work at night, in the morning, first thing I do when I get up is check them. And I try to respond. If they're not weird and creepy, which I do get a couple of those, I will try to respond, even if it's just a sentence. Or sometimes, like, I'll have to be like, hey, I can't answer right now. Message me again tomorrow. I'll get back to you. Like, I
yeah,
try to do stuff like that. If I work in the morning, when I come home at night when I'm eating dinner, I try to go through again, try to answer everything, and just be like, hey, yeah, this is what's going on, or thanks, it's good, or like I have a lot of people who send me pictures of what they're working on, and be like, oh, I'm working on this, and I'm like, oh man, that looks super awesome. What if you did it like this, or what if you added this, or can you teach me how to do that? Because like I'm always open because I'm always learning. And that's one thing. Like I don't consider myself a professional cosplayer. Um, I think people think I'm different. And I think people like to follow me because I'm kind of like spazzy and crazy. So I don't have the amount of skill that other cosplayers have. I've been very fortunate to get a lot of help, and I've learned a lot in the past 2 years. But that's something that I still try is like when I reach out to people, if they're doing something and they're showing me and I want to know it, I'll be like, I want you to teach me how to do this. And that also creates a better bond between me and the people that I'm talking to as well. Of course, I would love to be someone who has like 30,000 followers because that'd be like super amazing. But I know with that number also comes like the shrinkage of like how many messages can I answer in like a day span. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
Awesome. Well, we're let's see. I think we may have got a couple more comments here. Nope. It just looked like it. All right. Well, we are now past the half-hour mark. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us for our 2-year anniversary. Uh,
Sure.
it's really cool to have people that we've communicated with over the last year or two, and you're one of those people that I remember. It's like it's not just, hey, they kind of look for me. No, I remember you because you've got it going on. So
I stick out like a sore thumb.
yeah, so do I. Um, but anyway, I appreciate you coming on. We're gonna go ahead and wrap. I'll stay on with you for just a second
Okay, cool.
after we wrap the live interview. But yeah, Jacey Julep, check her out. You're on Facebook,
Yep.
Instagram.
Twitter, I'm on all of them. It's all Jacey Julep.
Cool. So look up, and we actually have up here in the top right hand corner her name, how it's spelled, to where you don't have to mess up. Just get on there, check her out, give her page a like, and she seems to be offering, great fan service. So anyway, I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network. Be sure to drop by Infinity Flux this coming Saturday. We're going to be broadcasting all day during Free Comic Book Day. We're going to be talking to people about the free comic books they're getting, talking about what are you doing for Free Comic Book Day while we're thinking about it.
I'm working.
Oh,
Yeah, I work like a weird like midday shift too. So unless I go like super early, but most of the comic shops around me won't open till like 12. And I
yeah.
have to be at work at 2, so it doesn't give me time to get like in costume and go or anything. So I might just swing by on my way in, but unfortunately I will be working the majority of it.
Historically, I have to work every single day that we have Free Comic Book Day. This year, I still had to work, but I asked off.
Right.
It's happening this year because we've got so much stuff going on with the channel and everything that I had to just bite the bullet and say, hey, you know what? I'm taking a Lonnie day. But anyway, we really appreciate you coming on, and I'll talk to you for just a second after we get off.
Okay.
Be sure to drop by Infinity Flux. We're going to be back on the air at 4 p.m. Here in about 20 minutes, and then again at 4 p.m. we're going to be talking to cosplayer Chastity Von Fay. She does a lot of Harley Quinn pole dancing. That's going to be interesting. And then at 5 o'clock we're going to be talking to local artist and midnight artist about the cats, Alex Ogle. So I'm Lonnie with Untitled Nerd Network, here with special guest Jacey Julep, and thanks for stopping by.